to PPFM's Storytime, a proper Prepper FM production. Our selective short and long stories are here to enlighten your evenings or darken your mood. We do our best to fulfil both for you. So crack that tin or pour that brew. There's nothing left for you to do. Listen in and crack a smile and stay with us for a short while.
All right, you glorious lunatics. Davey here. Welcome back to the continuing saga of Malcolm Rudge, tea-powered survivalist, tactical pensioner, and the only man I know who can start a fire using nothing but damp wood, blind faith, and tears of frustration. Last time he bugged out into the wild, he came back shivering, traumatised, and smelling faintly of stew and panics, so, obviously, he signed up to do it again. But this time as part of a Preparedness Retreat, which, from what I gather, is just boot camp run by a man called Kev the Bleeder, who probably sharpens his trauma shears before brushing his teeth. Brace yourself for medical dolls that look too alive, squirrels being unzipped like jackets, Malcolm losing a fight with a hammock, a badger chase worthy of a wildlife documentary narrated by drunk Attenborough, and enough emotional damage to fill a rucksack, right next to the biscuits. So tighten your bootlaces, clutch your thermos, and pray Malcolm doesn't faint again. Here we go. Bugger it, I'm still here. The story continues.
6 months later. 6 months. That's how long it's been since I last camped under a leaky tarp, failed to boil pasta, and watched a fox abscond with my biscuits like it was on the Great British Bug Out. Camping out in the winter is not my bag. Let's just roll with the warmer months for now. But you know what? I missed it. Not the damp socks, not the mystery stew, but the learning, the laughing, the mad, brilliant mess of it all. Which is probably why I signed up for what the flyer called the Preparedness Retreat. Real skills for real survivors. What it should have said was, come faint in a bush while learning to apply a tourniquet. But I didn't read the fine print. I saw the words 10% off if you bring a friend, and immediately texted Dennis, pack your poncho, we're going back in. So here we are, a week-long off-grid boot camp run by a bloke named Kev the Bleeder Taylor, ex-paramedic, current maniac, possibly lives in a shipping container. I didn't know what to expect, but I can tell you this now. By the end of the week, I'd fall over, throw up, cry in a hammock, and get chased by a wild animal. Twice. 1. We arrived at base camp around noon. It was in a field that smelled like damp hay and misplaced ambition. Kev greeted us wearing combat trousers, a sleeveless fleece, and a tattoo of what I assumed was a heart, but could have been a flaming kidney. Welcome to the Preparedness Retreat, he boomed. Today we're starting with first aid. Lovely, I thought. Plasters, bandages, maybe a CPR dummy called Steve. Then Kev rolled out a life-sized mannequin with half its face missing, a plastic leg jutting out at the wrong angle, and a tongue so realistic it wobbled in the breeze. Dennis turned to me and whispered, I think I'm going to be sick. I replied, You? I'm about to give this dummy a safe word. Kev handed out gloves and trauma shears like we were going to war. Scenario 1, he said, compound fracture and major bleeding. Go! Everyone else surged forward like they knew what they were doing. I froze because what I saw was a fake leg with a real bone poking through it, and the tongue wobbling, moist, judging me. Next thing I knew, the world tilted sideways and I woke up with Vera, a retired nurse, fanning me with a laminated chart titled The 7 Types of Hemorrhage. Kev stood over me grinning. Well done. First fainter of the course. Happens every time. Usually the men. Dennis took a photo. Of course he did. I gave him the finger. He gave me a thumbs up. Later I tried again. Bandaged the dummy's arm. Sort of. Tied a tourniquet. Kind of. Managed to not vomit at the sight of plastic intestine. Progress. Mad minute tip. Never trust a first aid dummy with realistic tongue. 2. It was Tuesday. or maybe Wednesday. Out here, time was measured in tea bags and minor trauma. Kev gathered us at the outdoor classroom, which was just a tarp over a pallet table, and announced, "Today's lesson, sourcing wild food and small game prep." I glanced at Dennis. He glanced at me. We both glanced longingly at the snack bag in Vera's rucksack. Then Kev unveiled the training specimens. Laid out like a tragic buffet were one solid-looking pigeon labelled Greg for some reason, one slightly squashed rabbit, and one thing that might have been a squirrel but honestly looked like someone had run over a sock. Vera said, "Ooh, brings back memories." Dennis said, "I'm gonna be sick." Pete named the rabbit Nigel. It went downhill from there. Kev demonstrated the process with professional flair, skinning, gutting, the works, while cheerfully explaining how to avoid piercing the gallbladder unless you fancy your stew tasting like battery acid and vomit. Then it was our turn. I picked up a blunt knife and the rabbit, or part of the rabbit. It felt like defrosted dignity. I took a deep breath, then I made an incision, then the skin peeled back like old wallpaper and it made a noise that can only be described as "rip." I gagged, dropped the rabbit. It landed on Dennis's boot with a plop. He screamed, I screamed. Pete dry heaved into a hedge. Greg the pigeon flopped off the table like it couldn't take the drama. Vera calmly picked up the rabbit and got to work. "Bit out of practice," she said. "Used to do this every Sunday for stew." Every Sunday? What sort of post-apocalyptic Mary Berry was she? Kev nodded. "Excellent technique, Vera. You boys watching?" We were. Through fingers. From a safe distance. I didn't finish my rabbit. I did, however, wash my hands 17 times and eat an entire packet of digestives in emotional protest. Mad minute tip. Don't name your food, especially if it has eyeballs. 3. It started, as these things often do, with me needing a wee. Midway through Kev's lecture on bush snares, which incidentally included the phrase gut tension and squirrel finesse, I slipped away for a bit of privacy, found a quiet spot behind a gorse bush. Unzipped. Nature called. I answered. And then rustling. At first I thought it was Pete. He has this habit of wandering off to record authentic wilderness ambience with a mic he bought on eBay. But this wasn't Pete. It was something. The kind of something that breathes heavily and snorts. Then it stepped into view. A badger, not just any badger. This one had seen things, built like a cinder block, stared at me like it was going to kick my head in. I froze. It sniffed. I whispered, "Nice badger." It growled. Now, I don't know the etiquette for disengaging from a toilet-adjacent wildlife standoff, but I can confirm that shouting and legging it while still trying to zip up is not ideal. The badger gave chase. I ran through camp like a man possessed, trousers half up, flapping like a windswept gazebo. Dennis screamed, Pete filmed, Vera clapped. Kev yelled, "That's the spirit." That's what you call a live exercise. I tripped over the hammock rig and face planted into Colin's kindling pile. The badger stopped, snorted, gave me a final look of disdain, then waddled off like a judge leaving a courtroom. Later over tea, Kev reassured me, "Badgers are territorial, mate." That one just didn't like your face. Thanks, Kev. Dennis made a commemorative sketch of the moment and called it Flight of the Tactically Incontinent. It's now laminated and hanging in the mess tent. Mad minute tip. If it waddles at you with rage in its eyes, don't argue camp discipline, just run. 4. Sleep system training. Now, when Kev announced this, I thought we were going to be shown how to snore less audibly in a bivvy bag, or maybe how to fold a sleeping mat without swearing. But no, this was the hammock module. Hammocks are brilliant, Kev declared, if you know what you're doing. Keeps you off the cold ground, easy to pack, and with a proper underquilt, toasty. Dennis and I looked at the rigs strung between two trees. They looked like fabric slings of doom, or like someone had tied a sleeping bag to a washing line after 2 pints. Pete was already in his, grinning like a man who'd just discovered levitation. Colin was in the corner trying to make his into a recliner. Vera opted for a camp bed. "I haven't trusted rope since the Ibiza incident," she muttered. Kev showed us the entry technique. Stand under the hammock. Sit back slowly. Swing your legs up. Adjust. Simple, he said. Elegant, he said. I tried. Attempt 1. I sat, swung my legs, and promptly flipped backwards like a disgraced gymnast, landing in a pile of stinging nettles. Attempt 2. I reapproached with caution, slid in sideways, looked stable until the fabric twisted, and I rotated like a damp kebab, ending up face first in my own armpit with both legs pointing at Mars. Attempt 3, I got in, success sat and laid back, and immediately realized I'd tied it too tight and was now in a tensioned cocoon. Couldn't move, couldn't breathe, looked like a tightly packed sausage roll with feet. Dennis approached with the knife. I screamed, "Don't you dare!" He poked me with a tent pole instead. For ventilation, he said. Eventually Kev freed me using what he called the banana roll technique and a shove. I slept on the ground that night, on a bin liner like a broken caterpillar. Mad minute tip: a hammock is like marriage. Get in wrong and you'll end up bruised, twisted, and asking someone to cut you loose. 5. By day 5 I was held together with duct tape, caffeine, and a vague sense of British determination. The task was simple, the final field challenge. Kev handed us a dog-eared map, roughly accurate, a compass that spun like it was drunk, and declared, 2-mile hike, camp overnight, cook dinner, no GPS, no excuses, survive. Then he blew a whistle and disappeared into the woods like some sort of motivational Sasquatch. We packed our kits. Pete brought his harmonica again. Colin brought sausages. Dennis brought a hip flask and a sense of doom. I brought enthusiasm. It lasted 11 minutes. That's when I stubbed my toe on a tree root, tripped, and face-planted a molehill. The mole was fine. I wasn't. My left boot now had a soggy squelch, and I had a bruise on my pride the size of Shropshire. We made it to the campsite. Barely. Colin started the fire, accidentally using Pete's toilet roll stash. Pete played the MASH theme on his harmonica in protest. I pulled out my trusty camping stove, set it up, lit it, and dropped it straight on my foot. There was a clang, a sizzle, and a scream that could have belonged to either me or the kettle. Possibly both. Dennis rushed over. "Are you all right?" "No," I whimpered. "The beans are spilled all over my boots. Dinner was burned." My foot throbbed. The sky opened up and dumped an entire cloud's worth of soggy apologies on us. By 10 p.m. we were huddled under a tarp, passing around Colin's emergency whiskey and quietly giving up on life. Pete started playing Bohemian Rhapsody on harmonica again, and somehow it was perfect. Miserable, wet, cold, but we were there, together, surviving, badly, but surviving. Mad minute tip: bring more plasters than you think, and more baked beans. 6th. The last day, we looked like a group of people who'd escaped a themed hostage situation, muddy, lopsided, sunburned in bizarre shapes and smelling faintly of meat and trauma. Kev gathered us in a clearing. His final challenge: team first aid simulation, no pressure except pretend someone's losing a limb. He handed me a scenario card. Arterial bleed, unresponsive, shock setting in, brilliant. The dummy lay before us, the same tongue-waggling monstrosity from day 1, now accessorized with fake blood, a dislocated arm, and a bandana that said, "Save me." Dennis and I got to work. Tourniquet, bandage, CPR compressions. 30 and 2, I shouted. Check airway. Pete, hand me a juice box. No, Pete, that's for us, not the patient. Colin tripped over a stump and landed arse first in the trauma kit. Vera just sat nearby and muttered, "I told you lot to eat more iron." And yet, somehow, we stabilized the dummy. Even Kev looked mildly impressed. "You didn't kill it," he said. "That's something." Later, back at camp, we packed up our gear, minus Pete's drone, which had found a new home in an oak tree, and shared one last meal together. Sausages, tea, laughter. I looked around at this absurd little group. Dennis, now sporting a homemade tarp hat. Vera, sipping gin from a repurposed Coke bottle. Pete, humming Eye of the Tiger while applying blister plasters. Colin asleep in a camping chair with a sandwich balanced on his chest, and I felt it. Not pride exactly, not triumph, just peace. I came here to learn how to survive, and instead, I learned how to live a bit louder, with dirt under my nails and laughter in my lungs. Mad minute tip. You won't be perfect, you'll get muddy, you'll panic, you'll chase biscuits into hedges, but you'll survive, and sometimes even enjoy it. Well, that's it. Malcolm Rudge, tactical tea drinker, accidental prepper, and survivor of badgers, biscuits and hammocks, is hanging up his flint and bug-out boots. I started this journey thinking the world was ending. Turns out I just needed to get outside, to learn something new, to mess up, to fall over, to get back up with soggy socks and a story to tell. If you're still listening, still wondering whether this prepping thing is for you, I'll say this. You don't need fancy gear. You don't need a cabin in the woods. You need a flask, a bit of stubbornness, and the willingness to laugh when things go wrong, which they will, spectacularly. So go on, bug out, fall in some mud, burn your stew, shout at a badger, and then tell someone all about it, because that, right there, is what surviving really means. Cheers. Malcolm Rudge, sort of retired, still got the tarp.
Well then, Malcolm's still breathing, still learning, still traumatised, and now officially a man who has battled dummies with wobbly tongues, screamed at a rabbit, been judged by a badger, and proven, once and for all, hammocks are weapons. He survived the retreat, somehow, and came out the other side wiser, muddier, and with a laminated drawing of himself fleeing wildlife with his trousers half up. That's growth, that's character, that's, unfortunately, on the internet now. So, the lesson today, you don't need to be Bear Grylls. You just need stubbornness, snacks, and a willingness to run screaming from aggressive woodland creatures. If Malcolm can get through all that and still fancy another brew in the woods, then you, yes you, can give this prepping lark a shot too. Right, kettle on, boots off, dignity optional. I've been Davey. You've been brilliant. Now do the sacred ritual. Like, share and subscribe. It helps us out. Cheers. See you all laters.